The old woman stood by the tall glass doors, two heavy bags pulling at her thin arms. People in fine coats walked past her like she was invisible. "Excuse me," she said softly to a man in a dark suit. "Could you help me with?" He didn't even look at her. His shoulder hit her bag. Apples rolled across the sidewalk. "Move," he said. "You're blocking the entrance." He walked inside without looking back. The old woman knelt slowly, her hands shaking as she tried to gather her things. Then a girl in a red delivery uniform rushed over. She dropped to her knees beside her. "Let me help you, ma'am," Amara said, picking up an apple and wiping it on her sleeve. The old woman looked up, surprised. "Why are you helping me?" Amara smiled. "Because nobody else did." Amara didn't know it yet. But the woman she just helped could end the careers of everyone who had ignored her. Amara worked 2 jobs just to survive. By day, she cleaned rooms at a small apartment building. By night, she delivered food on a bike that was falling apart. She sent most of her money home to her sick mother. At the apartment building, a rich tenant named Mr. Cole treated her like she was nothing. He once threw his coffee cup at her feet and told her to clean it, properly this time. Amara said nothing. She just wiped the floor and walked away. Meanwhile, the old woman was often seen near a quiet tea house downtown. The staff there barely spoke to her. They assumed she had no money and no name worth knowing. One evening, Amara's delivery app buzzed. New order. Same tea house. Same address. She had no idea she was about to meet that woman again. Amara reached the tea house just as the old woman was stepping inside. She parked her bike and grabbed the small paper bag from her delivery box. Before she could walk in, she heard a sharp voice. "I'm sorry, but this table is reserved," the host said, blocking the old woman's path. He didn't even check his book. He just looked at her worn coat and shook his head. "Maybe you should try somewhere else." A few guests nearby turned to stare. One woman laughed quietly behind her hand. The old woman didn't argue. She simply nodded and turned to leave, her eyes down. Amara stepped forward. "She's with me," Amara said calmly. "We had a table booked under Grandma Choi." The host blinked. "Oh, I didn't realize." "It's fine," Amara said. "Just show us where to sit." It wasn't true. There was no reservation. But nobody checked. Amara simply walked beside the old woman to an empty table near the window, pulled out the chair, and waited until she sat down. "Thank you," the old woman whispered. "You didn't have to do that." "It's nothing," Amara said, setting the delivery bag on the table. "Everyone deserves a seat." A young clerk from the gift counter nearby walked over, eyeing the old woman's worn purse. "Ma'am, are you paying for that tea, or just sitting here?" The old woman opened her purse slowly, her hands shaking again. Before she could answer, Amara placed a few coins on the counter. "I've got it," Amara said. "2 teas. Keep the change." The clerk shrugged and walked away. The old woman studied Amara's face for a long moment. There was something in the way this girl carried herself. Calm, steady, unbothered by the stares around them. It reminded her of someone. "You remind me of my daughter," the old woman said softly. "She used to say the same thing. Everyone deserves a seat." Amara smiled but didn't ask more. She could see the sadness behind the old woman's eyes, the kind of sadness that comes from missing someone for a long time. "What's your name?" the old woman asked. "Amara." "Amara," the old woman repeated like she was memorizing it. "Thank you, Amara. Most people don't even look at me anymore." "I see you," Amara said simply. The old woman reached out and gently touched Amara's hand. For a moment, neither of them said anything. The noise of the tea house faded into the background. Amara didn't know why this moment felt so important. She just knew she wasn't going to forget it. She had no idea how much those 4 words, "I see you," were about to change everything. 2 days later, Amara's phone buzzed with a new delivery order. She almost dropped her bike when she read the address. It was the same tea house. When she walked in, the old woman was already waiting for her, sitting in the same seat by the window. I asked for you, the old woman said, smiling. I hope that is not a problem. No problem at all, Amara said, surprised. How can I help you, Grandma Choi? The old woman folded her hands on the table. I need someone I can trust. Just for a few errands. I will pay you well. Amara hesitated. She had 2 jobs already. But something about the old woman's voice made her want to say yes. What kind of errands? Amara asked. Nothing difficult, the old woman said. I need someone to carry a few packages. Maybe help me with an appointment next week. My family is busy. They do not always have time for an old woman's small requests. Amara thought about her rent, about her mother's medicine, about the extra money this could bring. I can do that, she said. Over the next few days, Amara ran small errands for the old woman. She picked up dry cleaning. She carried a small wooden box to a jeweler downtown, careful not to open it. She waited outside a private office while the old woman met with someone inside. Each time, a car came to pick the old woman up. It was black, long, and quiet. The driver never spoke much, but he always opened the door first for the old woman, then nodded politely at Amara. Amara noticed small things. The driver wore an earpiece. He scanned the street before letting the old woman step outside. Once, when a stranger walked too close, the driver moved between them without even thinking about it. It wasn't the behavior of a normal driver. It was the behavior of someone protecting something valuable. Amara didn't ask questions. It wasn't her place. But she couldn't stop wondering who this old woman really was. One afternoon, as they sat in the tea house again, the old woman looked at Amara with a soft, tired smile. You never ask me anything, she said. Most people would want to know why an old woman needs a driver, or why she wears simple clothes but sends packages to a jeweler. Amara shrugged gently. It's not my business, Grandma Choi. I just wanted to help. The old woman nodded slowly, like Amara had just confirmed something she already believed. That is exactly why I chose you, she said quietly. Amara smiled, not fully understanding what those words meant. She had no idea that somewhere across the city, in a tall glass building, someone was already reviewing footage of her, watching the way she treated an old woman nobody else bothered to notice. On Friday, the old woman asked Amara for one more favor. Come with me today, she said. Not for an errand. Just to keep me company. My home can feel quiet sometimes. Amara agreed, thinking they would take a bus or maybe walk a few blocks. Instead, the black car was waiting outside the tea house. The driver opened the door for both of them. They drove for almost 30 minutes, leaving the busy streets behind. The buildings grew smaller. The trees grew taller. Then the car turned through a large iron gate that opened by itself. Amara's mouth fell open. In front of her stood a huge house, more like a small palace. Stone steps led up to wide wooden doors. Gardens stretched out on both sides, neat and full of flowers. 2 men in dark suits stood near the entrance. When they saw the old woman, they both bowed. Welcome home, Madam Choi, one of them said. Amara turned to the old woman, stunned. Madam Choi, this is your house. The old woman smiled gently. This is my family's home. I am sorry I did not tell you sooner. Inside, the house was even more amazing. Tall ceilings, polished floors. A large photo on the wall showed the old woman standing beside a group of serious-looking men and women, all dressed in expensive suits, in front of a tall glass building downtown. Amara recognized that building. She had passed it many times on her bike, delivering food to people who worked there. It was the headquarters of Choi Group, one of the biggest companies in the city. Wait, Amara said slowly. Choi Group. That's you. My husband started it many years ago, Madam Choi said. After he passed, my grandson took over. I am not as involved as I used to be. But yes, this is my family. Amara sat down slowly on a nearby chair, her legs feeling weak. She thought of the tea house, the clerk who assumed the old woman couldn't pay, the host who tried to turn her away. None of them knew they were speaking to the woman whose family name was on one of the tallest buildings in the city. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" Amara asked quietly. "Why let people treat you like that?" Madam Choi looked out the window, her eyes distant. "Because kindness should not depend on who you are. I wanted to know who would still be kind to me, even if I had nothing." She turned back to Amara, her eyes soft. "You passed that test without even knowing you were taking it." Amara didn't know what to say. She had helped an old woman with her groceries. She had given up coins for a cup of tea. She never imagined it would lead her here, standing inside a mansion, learning that the woman she thought was poor and forgotten was actually one of the most powerful people in the city. She had no idea her life was about to change completely. That same evening, in a tall glass building downtown, a man sat behind a wide desk, staring at a screen. His name was Malik Choi, though most people simply called him Mr. Choi. He was the grandson Madam Choi had spoken about, the one who now ran the company his grandfather built. His assistant knocked and stepped inside. "Sir, your grandmother wants you to see something." Security footage from the tea house downtown. Malik frowned. "Is she all right?" "She's fine," the assistant said. "But I think you should watch this yourself." The footage began. Malik watched as his grandmother stood quietly by the entrance while the host turned her away without even checking his book. He watched strangers stare and whisper, no one stepping forward to help. Then he saw a young woman in a red delivery uniform walk up and calmly claim a reservation that didn't exist. He watched her pull out a chair for his grandmother, pay for her tea without hesitation, and speak to her like she mattered. Malik leaned forward, his jaw tight. "Who is she?" he asked. "Her name is Amara," the assistant said. "A delivery driver. Your grandmother has been using her for small errands this past week." Malik watched the footage again, slower this time. He noticed how Amara never looked around to see if anyone was watching her. She wasn't performing kindness for an audience. She was simply being decent, even when it cost her nothing to walk away instead. Then he watched an earlier clip from days before outside the restaurant. A man in a dark suit knocked his grandmother's bag over and didn't even stop. Malik recognized him instantly. It was Damien Cole, the son of one of the company's biggest business partners. His hands curled into fists on the desk. "Pull his file," Malik said quietly. "I want to know everything about him." "And the girl?" the assistant asked. Malik was quiet for a moment, still watching Amara's face on the screen. There was something steady about her. Something that didn't match the tired uniform she wore or the beat-up bike leaning against the curb outside. "Find out where she works," he said. "I want to meet her myself." "Should I set up a formal meeting?" "No," Malik said. "Not yet." He wasn't ready to explain why. Maybe it was the way she defended his grandmother without expecting anything back. Maybe it was the anger he felt watching strangers ignore an old woman who had given up so much for her family, including him. Whatever the reason, one thing was clear. Malik Choi wanted to see this delivery girl for himself, not because his grandmother asked him to, but because something about her refused to leave his mind. He had no idea that meeting her would change more than just his week. The next afternoon, Amara's phone buzzed with a new delivery order. She almost ignored it, thinking it was just another customer. But when she read the pickup address, her stomach dropped. It was the Choi Group building downtown. She parked her bike outside the tall glass tower and walked in, feeling small under the high ceilings and shining floors. A woman at the front desk checked her name and pointed her toward the elevator. "Top floor," the woman said. "Someone is expecting you." When the elevator doors opened, Amara stepped into a large office with wide windows overlooking the city. A man stood by the glass, his back turned. When he faced her, Amara froze for a second. He looked serious, sharp, the kind of person people usually feared. "You must be Amara," he said. "I'm Malik Choi." Amara's mind raced. "Choi, the same name as the old woman. Madam Choi's grandson?" she asked slowly. "That's right." He studied her for a moment, then gestured to a chair. Please sit. Amara sat carefully, still holding her delivery bag like a shield. I wanted to thank you, Malik said, for what you did for my grandmother. Twice now, from what I understand. I didn't do anything special, Amara said. Anyone should have helped her. But no one else did, Malik said quietly. That's the part that matters. Amara didn't know what to say, so she stayed silent. Malik walked closer, his hands in his pockets. My grandmother doesn't trust people easily. Not since my grandfather passed. People only see the name, the money, the company. They don't see her. She's a good woman, Amara said. She just wants to be treated like one. Malik looked at her for a long moment. Why did you help her really? You didn't know who she was. That's exactly why, Amara said. If I only helped people because of who they might be, that's not kindness. That's just business. Something shifted in Malik's expression. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close. I'd like to offer you a job, he said. Something better than delivering food. Amara shook her head gently. I appreciate that, Mr. Choi, but I don't want charity. I didn't help her for a reward. It's not charity, Malik said. It's respect. There's a difference. Amara studied his face, searching for the trick, the catch. She found none. Just quiet honesty. I'll think about it, she said finally. Malik nodded, but something in his tone shifted, more businesslike now. Take your time. Though I should tell you, I don't usually wait long for answers. Amara caught it, the small edge of entitlement underneath his kindness. It reminded her of every rich man who expected the world to move at his pace. I'm not one of your employees yet, Mr. Choi, she said evenly. You'll wait like everyone else. For a moment, Malik looked almost embarrassed. Then slowly he smiled. Fair enough. As she stood to leave, Malik walked her to the elevator. Neither of them said much, but something had settled between them, something small and new. Amara didn't know it yet, but Malik Choi rarely offered anything to anyone twice. She had no idea he was already planning to see her again. Word traveled fast inside the Choi Group offices. Within days, everyone knew Malik Choi had personally offered a delivery girl a job. Most people whispered about it quietly. One person did not stay quiet. Her name was Serena Cole, daughter of the same Damien Cole who had knocked Madame Choi's groceries to the ground without stopping. Serena had grown up believing she would one day marry into the Choi family. Their parents had been close for years. She saw Malik as hers, even if he never once said the same. It wasn't only pride driving her. Her father's business had been quietly struggling for 2 years, and a marriage into the Choi family was the only lifeline anyone had discussed at home. Serena had grown up hearing it phrased as destiny. Losing Malik didn't just mean losing him. It meant watching her family's name lose its place at the table. When she heard about Amara, she laughed at first. A delivery girl, she said to her friend over coffee. Malik must be bored. But when she saw them together at a company event, standing close, talking quietly by the window, her smile disappeared. Amara had been invited to the event as Malik's guest, wearing a simple dress that still looked out of place among the designer gowns around her. She felt every eye on her, every whisper behind polite smiles. Serena walked over, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. You must be the delivery girl, she said, looking Amara up and down. I have to say I'm impressed. Not many people climb this fast. I'm not climbing anything, Amara said calmly. I'm just here. Of course you are, Serena said, smiling coldly. Enjoy it while it lasts. Malik stepped in before Amara could respond. Serena, that's enough. I'm just being honest, Serena said, her voice sweet and sharp at the same time. Someone should warn her. People like her don't usually last long in rooms like this. Amara said nothing, but her hands tightened slightly at her sides. Later that night, Serena wasn't finished. She began making calls, spreading small comments to people she knew would repeat them. She hinted that Amara was using Malik for money. She suggested Amara had a questionable past, nothing solid, just enough doubt to plant a seed. By the next week, whispers followed Amara everywhere she went inside the company. Co-workers who once smiled at her now looked away. A manager who had been kind to her suddenly kept his distance. Amara noticed, but she didn't complain. She had faced worse before, from people who had far less reason to be cruel. Still, one afternoon, she overheard two employees talking near the break room. "I heard she's only after his money," one said. "She probably tricked the old woman too," the other added. Amara froze outside the door, her chest tightening. It wasn't the insult that hurt the most. It was the fear that people might actually believe it, that everything she had done out of simple kindness could be twisted into something ugly. She had no idea that Serena's jealousy was only getting started, or how far she was willing to go to make sure Amara never truly belonged in Malik's world. 2 weeks later, Choi Group held its biggest event of the year, a formal gala celebrating the company's anniversary. Hundreds of guests filled the grand hall, including investors, partners, and every important family connected to the business. Malik had asked Amara to attend as his guest, and this time she agreed without hesitation. Everything seemed fine until Madame Choi suddenly gasped near the gift table. "My bracelet," she said, her voice shaking. "It's gone." The bracelet belonged to her late husband. It was old, simple, but priceless to her. Guests turned to look. Whispers spread through the hall like fire. Serena appeared almost instantly, her face full of concern that didn't quite reach her eyes. "When was the last time you had it?" she asked loudly, making sure everyone nearby could hear. "Before dinner," Madame Choi said, confused. "I don't understand." Serena turned slowly toward Amara. "Wasn't Amara helping you earlier? Adjusting your shawl?" The room went quiet. All eyes shifted toward Amara. "I didn't touch her bracelet," Amara said, her heart pounding. "I would never." "Security found something," a man interrupted, walking forward with a small velvet pouch. Inside was the missing bracelet. It was in her bag. Gasps filled the room. Amara felt the floor tilt beneath her. "That's impossible," she said. "I didn't put that there." Malik stepped forward immediately, his face hard. "Check the security footage. Now." While staff rushed to pull up the recordings, whispers grew louder around the hall. Some guests looked at Amara with pity. Others looked at her like she had already been proven guilty. Serena crossed her arms, a small, satisfied smile hidden behind her concerned expression. Minutes felt like hours before the footage appeared on a screen near the stage. It showed the gift table earlier that evening. Serena, alone, glancing around before slipping something small into a bag left near the coats, the same bag Amara had set down before helping in the kitchen. The hall fell silent. Malik turned to Serena, his voice low and controlled. "Explain this." Serena's face went pale. I don't know what that is. This must be edited." "It's time-stamped," the security officer said. "Untouched." Madame Choi walked slowly toward Amara, taking her hands gently. "I never doubted you," she said. "Not for 1 second." Amara's eyes filled with tears, not from the accusation, but from the relief of finally being seen clearly, in front of everyone who had once looked at her with doubt. Malik faced the crowd, his voice steady and firm. "Amara has shown more honesty and kindness in the last few weeks than most people in this room have shown in years. That ends tonight." Serena was escorted out quietly, her face burning with humiliation as the same guests who once admired her now turned away. Amara stood there, shaking but standing tall. The truth had finally spoken for itself. She had no idea that this moment would change how everyone in that hall saw her, permanently. A week after the gala, Choi Group held a quiet press event, nothing like the loud gala from before. This time, only close staff and family were invited. Madame Choi stood at the front of the room, her hand resting gently on Amara's shoulder. "Many of you know what happened at the gala," she said. "But few of you know the full story. This young woman helped me when she thought I had nothing to give back. She gave up her seat for me. She paid for my tea with coins she could not spare. She defended me without ever asking who I was. The room stayed silent, listening. Today, I want to make something official, Madam Choi continued. I am starting a new foundation in my husband's name, to help families who are overlooked, just like I once was. And I can think of no one better to lead it than Amara. Amara's breath caught in her throat. Madam Choi, I don't know what to say. Say yes, Madam Choi said, smiling. Yes, Amara whispered, tears filling her eyes. Malik stepped forward, standing beside her. This isn't charity, he said, echoing words he had told her weeks before. This is respect. You earned this before you ever knew our name. Malik paused, then added one more thing. There's something else you should know. My family has ended its partnership with Cole Holdings. Effective this morning. Amara blinked. Because of the gala. Because of what I saw before the gala, Malik said. A man who steps over an old woman in the street doesn't deserve a seat at our table. I should have acted the moment I saw the footage. I'm only sorry it took this long. Later that evening, after the guests had gone, Malik found Amara standing alone on the balcony, looking out over the city lights. You didn't have to say all that, she said softly. In front of everyone. Yes, I did, Malik said. I almost lost you because I didn't speak up soon enough. I won't make that mistake again. He took her hand gently. I'm not choosing you because of what happened at the gala, or because my grandmother adores you. I'm choosing you because of who you were before any of us knew your name. That delivery girl who knelt down to help a stranger with her groceries. That's the person I want beside me. Amara smiled, her heart full for the first time in a long time. Madam Choi watched them quietly from the doorway, her eyes soft. She never asked to be seen, she whispered to herself. That's exactly why she was. Months later, the foundation opened its doors, helping struggling families across the city, families who once felt invisible, just like Amara once did. She led it with the same quiet kindness that started this entire journey, never asking for recognition, only offering her hand to whoever needed it. Amara had once been the girl nobody noticed. Now she was the reason so many others finally were. If this story moved you, if you believe kindness should never go unnoticed, type I see you in the comments below. And if you want more stories like this one, make sure you subscribe because the next person the world overlooks might just be waiting for their moment too.